Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, where you guys are at. My name is Dell Gambay, and welcome back to another episode of a Lowkey podcast. So, as always, with whatever podcast or whatever you're doing, it's got to be consistency. It's got to be hard work and dedication. It's got to be you're putting your effort into whatever that system or whatever that thing is. And a pioneer and we'll say a legend in the game that's been kind of doing that so far is my guest today. I don't know if I don't want to give the government, but I'm gonna just say Mr. Unkle Scooty, Martin Luther Scooty, and if you want to introduce yourself as well, just to the people that don't know you and stuff like that.
Kevin, Scooty, Hallam's, Unkle Scooty to a lot. Cultural architect, creative director, designer, artist, entrepreneur, business owner, all of those good things.
Yeah, so
Former dean of students.
I mean, yeah, that's a different segue, and that's a different past life connection that we both have. But it's definitely a pleasure to have you here today because one thing, I had to do my research, had to get all the facts together before we started this, and I remember you definitely telling me not to come at you with just the everyday type of stylistic questions. So I wanted to make sure that I was prepared for this in the right way. So
I hope you're prepared.
I mean, I had to be. But it was a lot of good information that I got to learn about you. But I definitely got to start off with the first question of the day. What does success mean to you, being a Maryland Eastern Shore graduate and being somebody that, like you said, is an entrepreneur, is, like I said, a pioneer, and also, changing avenues and able to stretch out to different aspects of, the creative space. What does success mean to you to start off?
So let's start out with the first thing. I never graduated.
Never. Oh yeah, no. Because we did talk about from a previous night that you did attend
Yes.
Maryland Eastern Shore. Maryland Eastern Shore, but because of
Different situations.
different situations.
Yeah. And we can talk about those things too. Like, no holds barred. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay, definitely.
we can talk about those things. But, just success to me is financial freedom for my family.
That's right.
It's ownership. I've worked for many companies over the course of my life, and I wanted to get to a place where everything that I did was my own.
That's right.
And that's what success looks like to me, because I feel like those type of not necessarily jobs, but that focus opens up opportunities not only for myself to be able to take care of my family, but also to be able to take care of others around me.
That's real. So, do you think that with that financial freedom piece, is that something that, to dive into immediately, that we need more education on as Black people? Or do you think that there's, programs being put in for that? Or do you think that we need to take the initiative on our own to find out or find ways to create that freedom for ourselves?
I think financial freedom and generational wealth is one of the most important things, in my opinion. And I know that there are resources out there, but everybody has different ways of getting information, and they have different ways of processing information. Yeah. So I would just always say, like, find what is best for you, what works best for you, and then kind of dive deep into that. For me, I'm a person that I'm visual. I'm a person that has to be hands-on. Everything has to be through experience, and that's what works for me. Okay. For others, you have, different classes. You can do things online. A lot of things are available to people, especially now. And, in my day and age, when I was growing up, a lot of the things that we did, we had to physically actually be in the space where something was happening. Yeah. Nowadays, I have two cell phones here. I know you have your cell phone, you have your laptop here. Definitely. Like, information is right at your fingertips.
Just taking the initiative to really go out and get it.
Taking the initiative to really go out there and get it. That's it.
I got you. So I'm titling this interview, more importantly, The Vision, because you have created a lot of avenues. I watched in a recent interview, that you're the dot connector, and that you know how to, put people in the right places that are ready and available to be in those right places at the right time. But I want to take it back to the childhood. As a child, being in DC, going to Parkville, what was what was kind of the start? What gave you that vision to be like, all right, I'm gonna step out of the zone, I'm gonna step out of the phase that everybody wants me to be in, and just journey and create it for yourself?
I mean, I think for me, growing up in the city, I spent a lot of time in a lot of different neighborhoods.
Yeah.
My mom was not in my life when I was young, and I grew up with my dad and my grandmother. And my dad being the youngest of 9 kids, I was constantly over my aunts and my uncles' houses. My dad leaned on a lot of my friends' parents to be able to help, take care of me. So when people say like it takes a village, like that was a real thing in my life. So constantly being in different places all the time, it's a you got to be like a chameleon, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Still be yourself, but still have to understand, where you are. Because at that time, the city was definitely a lot more segregated than what it is now.
Yeah.
I knew kids that like never left their neighborhood for any reason at all. You know what I mean? So if I'm coming with a different perspective from uptown and I'm going over to southeast, like those are things that you have to be cognizant of. And I think in the midst of that, it turned me into a person that just understood, like, okay, I take a little bit from here, a little bit from here, and then it made me who I am. And then, fast forward into, like today, I think that those things have helped me to achieve a lot of the goals that I've had, and it's helped me to be able to connect dots to different people just because I've been all over. I know people from everywhere, and someone may not necessarily have had the opportunity to meet this person, but I did. And I said, oh my God, like it makes sense for you guys to know each other because you're doing this and you're doing this. You're looking for a person who does camera work or videography or whatever for your podcast, or vice versa. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
things
sense.
like that just play out in my mind as like a math equation. And it all just comes, like, it just makes sense to me. It comes to my mind, it makes sense to me, and I just immediately connect those people. And then sometimes someone has to initiate the whole entire thing where they're asking me a question. Hey, do you know somebody that? I'm like, actually, I do. You know what I mean?
That's real. So that communication piece is a huge thing in the line of work that you're doing. So to tap into that, do you think it's harder for people to communicate, or do you think that because, like, we went through COVID, having social media and only being able to really talk to a handful of selected people, how are you able to keep up those communication skills and still be able to grow your brand the right way?
So, just going back to what we just talked about, for me, it just came from, going to a lot of different areas. I actually left the city, when I became a teenager. I went to high school in Maryland. Then I left. Obviously, I went to college for a couple years. So for me, it was always about being in a bunch of different places and being forced to meet people, right?
Yeah.
And now, fast forward to where we are now, people don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Everything is digital. It's online. People have different images and personalities and everything because they're protected by their phone. Everything now is like it's typing, it's sending messages or whatever. So for me, evolution is a real thing. For me to be able to keep up with my business, I have to be able to do both. So I'm a person that if anybody comes up to me at any point in time, I'm always ready for a conversation. If anybody sends me a message, DM, text message, phone call, whatever, 95% of the time, I respond. The other 5% may just be because I may have thought about responding and I just didn't. But I never ignore anything.
Okay. So from the beginning too, that confidence and belief in yourself had to be a part of you in order for you to do what you're doing now, and for it to, break out of that mold and break out of your zone and be able to traverse those different places and then leave your impact. Okay. So that's brilliant. So how did you keep the vision going and growing? When I say that, once you created these ideas and you started to, create your brand and make your name for yourself, sometimes we don't have that belief in ourselves. Sometimes we lose trust. Sometimes when we leave the city or we leave a space, we don't have as much confidence in ourselves to see our vision through. So how did you know it was going to work and then keep it going?
I mean, I didn't know that it was going to necessarily work, but I knew that something was going to happen. Shortly after I got kicked out of college, I ended up losing my job, and I ended up being basically homeless. I was living from house to house, couch to couch, staying with just different people that I knew. So, going through that situation and, some other things that I don't necessarily speak about all the time, but just being like at the bottom of the bottom, it's like you can't go nowhere else but up.
That's right.
So as long as I kept my feet going, as long as I stayed the course, like something was going to happen and something was going to be better than where I was the day before. And then if you just keep on building on that and taking advantage of opportunities that are given to you and not taking them for granted, then you have an opportunity to flourish. For some people it takes a short time. For some people it takes a longer time. But my whole thing is just, I always just want to be better than I was yesterday. And that is the focus.
That's right. So we're going to take a segue. We're right now at one of the Sandlot Southeast locations. Well, not one of them, but we are at the Sandlot Southeast location. And you have multiple locations all throughout the city. I got the pleasure to go to one of your venues in Georgetown. And one thing I peeped about, the brand and stuff like that, from Rock Creek Social Club to Sandlot, was that the idea and aspect of a team and having those partnerships and creating those partnerships. We're going to tap into the Rock Creek Social Club. How did that come about? How did you why Rock Creek Social Club? Why that title? Why stay in DC? Because a lot of people, once they, get that buzz for themselves, they leave the city. But you made a home and wanted to stay. Why was that?
So the time when Rock Creek Social Club started, this was 2010. So I had just moved back home from New Jersey. So I was in my second stint of college. Things were kind of rough for me, the years prior, and I needed to get up out of the city. I needed to see something different. And I wanted to be closer to New York because I wanted to study fashion, marketing, design. And so 2010, I literally had just moved back home, maybe like 3 years prior. A friend of mine, my business partner now, Jerome Baker, he actually came up with the idea of Rock Creek Social Club, and just wanted to create a platform for like-minded individuals who were into art, who were into music, who didn't necessarily fit the quote-unquote status quo of what people from DC should look like, or within like the outside club scene and things like that. And we were able to create that with 3 other friends, and came up with the name Rock Creek Social Club just because none of us grew up in the same areas of the city or even lived in the same areas of the city. We all grew up somewhere around Rock Creek Park. So that's where the name originated from. So it became a multi-channel marketing company for millennials. And what was it? And then go back. I'm lost on the question.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I jumped a lot, but I was also tapping in the Sandlot, where I one of your locations, and we wanted to just, first of all, highlight it, but then also talk about, when it came to Sandlot, I know you and Ian, I had the ring run down, had created the idea, had started with a brick and mortar type of site, and then had expanded upon it. So when it came to Sandlot, I talked, you had quoted the movie and how, it wasn't just about the idea of, we're near Nat Stadium, but it wasn't the idea of baseball, but it was the idea of people from different backgrounds, different upbringings coming together and making something special. So with that diversity piece, a lot of times, let's not even do a lot of times, let's just talk about Sandlot. What was it? What made Sandlot special to you, and what helped you to grow and continue it?
So with the Sandlot thing, so going back for a second, just so everybody understands. So everything that I do has to run parallel with each other, right?
Yeah.
So Rock Creek Social Club, if we're bringing people out, if we're doing, recess on Tuesdays, if we're doing Broccoli City Fest, if we're doing Grilled Cheese Social, we're doing all of these events, then that means that we bring people out.
Yeah.
The only thing about those spaces is that we don't own any of those spaces,
Definitely.
right? Mm-hmm. So I always talk about, like, I got to be better than I was the day before, right?
Yep.
So if you are constantly in venues but don't own your own venue, that means that somebody can tell you what to do.
Yeah.
And that is not something that I wanted.
That's right.
But the idea of Sandlot came from my clothing line at the time, Diet Starts Monday. Mm-hmm. Sorry, not even Diet. One of my first clothing line, Premium Co.
Yeah.
We were doing a collaboration with Under Armour for MLB All-Star here in 2017 or 2018. And I am a person who loves pop-ups. I think that there's a greater story that you can tell for a brand in doing those.
Yeah.
And my business partners at the time, none of us were from the same cities. And trying to tell the story around baseball and also who we are as a brand, I started to do my research and started to watch movies. I never played baseball, so I started to watch movies that I thought were related to baseball. And when I got to Sandlot, what I realized was that movie wasn't really about baseball at all. It was really just about a group of diverse kids who would go to this place, this baseball diamond or the Sandlot, to converse over what was happening in their lives at the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, that's kind of like mimicking what we're doing. And then instead of baseball, we're just doing clothing. So when we presented it to Under Armour, we presented it to MLB said, hey, we already have an activation going. We don't necessarily need your activation, but we'll just take the clothes. And I said, that's cool. Okay. So Ian, who is my business partner now in Sandlot, he was helping me with this project. He and I have been friends for 30 plus years. He helps me with a lot of sponsorships and things like that coming up. And when I told him that we weren't doing the idea anymore, he was like, okay, that's cool. But then 3 weeks later, he called me and he's like, man, you know what? I don't think Sandlot was an activation.
Yeah.
He's like, I think that it's an actual space that we need to build. And at the time, my pop-up with Diet Starts Monday on 14th Street was closing.
Yeah.
So it was an opportunity for me to move into something else. And we found a 5,000 square foot lot. Literally less than a mile from here. Dirt field, trash, trees, weeds, liquor bottles, everything there. And he's like, this is the spot. And I was like, I don't see the vision. And he's like, no, we're going to clean this out. Yeah. Remove everything. We're going to drop some concrete down. We'll fence it in, and we're going to create the space that you visualized and that you were talking about. Yeah. And we're just going to make it something more long term. And, from that point, it was just the start of something to here we are now. Dang, that's tough. Going back to what you mentioned about, I think you mentioned something about like the team. Yep. Like everything that I've mentioned, it's always been about team. It's never about me. It's always about everybody that works around me. Like I'm only one piece of a larger puzzle in my business. Yeah. There's no me without a Jerome Baker III. There's no me without an Ian Callender. There's no me without a Tiffany Penn. There's no me without, some of the other people that helped me along the way. There would be none of these businesses, or not to say that it wouldn't be. Yeah. But this is not here without them.
That's real. That's real. Yeah. So to talk more about the team and just in a full scale sense. And you did kind of explain this. How important is it to have everybody in your team be in sync and be aligned so that whatever you have can, work out and be successful?
I mean, it's important. It's extremely important. I've never been on a team where everybody has been in sync. Yeah. I've never heard that question posed to anybody else, and I've never heard anybody else answer it. But I know, honestly speaking, I've never been on a team where everybody is completely in sync because, everybody has, their own life experiences that gives them their own vantage points of how they perceive certain things. And I think that the biggest thing is being able to compromise.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what is the end goal that we're trying to reach? And if we're aligned on what the end goal is, like how we get there, we can figure that out. You know what I mean? As long as people are open to sometimes agreeing to disagree, which is hard for, you know what I'm saying, for some people. Then also too, you know, some people they're meant to do something else.
Yeah.
So I've had a lot of people, you know, come join Rock Creek, and they use it as a stepping stone for them to start their own business. They wanted to get the knowledge that they needed. They wanted to get the connections that they needed for them to be able to do their own thing. So then at that point, you know, we can't be aligned because your focus is not what my end focus is, because my end focus is a goal that is going to directly affect me, and you might have something else in your mind.
That's real.
Especially if you're coming under a person like me who's going to always teach you like success looks like what you want it to look like.
Yeah.
You don't have to fall in love with my dream.
That's real.
Like,
that's real. Nah, that's real rap right there. So, take a step back to when you had talked about, you know, your journey to New Jersey and stuff like that, and getting into the fashion scene and learning about marketing, and then connecting with diet and premium and stuff like that. First premium and then diet. When making those brands, what was the idea? Why premium? And then, you know, clothes nowadays, we're seeing a lot of different things in fashion, and the transition of fashion, how fashion is growing. Was it a simplistic look, or what was the look that you wanted to go for at that time of create?
So premium was actually my third clothing line. So I had started 2 other clothing lines prior to, but like with, you know, very little knowledge about the fashion world.
Yeah.
You know, I was basically just going behind, you know, brands that I grew up on, which would be, you know, like a Madness, a Shooters, All Days, where you're doing more purchasing of wholesale items, and then, you know, kind of putting your label on it or whatever. So there is some creativity behind it, but for the most part, like, that's what it was. And then, you know, the evolution was a lot of those brands, We Are One, they got into cut and sew and all those things, but where it originated from was really just getting, you know, wholesale t-shirts and things like that, putting your label on it, and really building your brand from a different perspective.
Okay.
And you know, that was those were the brands that I grew up on, and those were the people that influenced me, and that's kind of like what I wanted to do. And didn't really work out. You know, didn't have enough knowledge, wasn't in a position financially to be able to afford to do it. I was just coming home from New Jersey. I had just started working in the school system, and I was literally making like $35,000 a year. So I wasn't even making any money like that. So I was having to constantly work part-time jobs and do a bunch of other things. But then as things started getting better for me, I got introduced to the premium brand. It had already started before I got there. Yeah. And the 2 owners had established something based more around accessory pieces, and they wanted to get into clothing. Yeah. And we were able to collaborate there because I felt like I wasn't necessarily coming into a fold that had already started. I looked at it like, this is a new chapter, and this is a great opportunity for me to come in. And, you know, from premium, you know, then led into diet, because some of those same owners shifted to that brand. Yeah. With premium was basics. So at that time in fashion, people were wearing more kind of like what I have on, you know what I'm saying? Like just really high-end basics, more focused on like quality and less on actual designs or screen prints or things like that. Yeah. Right? And then when that started to change, people were going more into like the graphic tees similar to what you have on, then that was an opportunity for Diet Starts Monday to be able to come out and take off.
So when you had, because you had highlighted, you know, the idea, not the idea, but the fact that you had other clothing brands, and I've seen in one of your previous interviews that you were selling clothes out of your trunk at one point, you know, and really had that hustle mindset. So how did that hustle mindset it just continued, you know, throughout the whole entire.
I ain't gonna lie to you. That was not a. It was a hustler's mindset, but it was more so like I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Like at the time when I was selling clothes out my trunk, like I was living in New Jersey and I was coming home on the weekends.
Yeah.
And I wasn't making no money up there. I was working a security job so that I could take classes for free. Mm-hmm. So the security job wasn't paying me much or nothing. I mean, I wasn't really working. I wasn't working enough hours. I wasn't making enough money to be able to pay rent. And you know, I'm up there by myself, and I'm staying. You know what I'm saying? Like in a space with some other people, but I still gotta pay my bills. I still got, you know, car payment and all these different type of things, adult shit. And so I literally was left with like $25 a week to eat. That was it. I don't eat fast food now because I was eating fast food every day. That's all I could afford. Yeah. So when I would come home to see my family and, you know, get a home cooked meal, to be with my lady and all of these different type of things, that shit would cost. You know what I'm saying? You got to fill your tank up. You got to pay tolls and all types of shit. So when I was selling those clothes, it was like, yo, if I don't sell this shirt, like I'm not gonna make it to school. I'm not gonna make it to work, and then I'm really gonna be fucked up. So it was more so like, you know, I mean, I guess, you know what I'm saying, like that's what bring the hustle out in you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you gotta do it.
I mean, I remember at one point I had came home and I was at a go-go, and I remember being outside and niggas started shooting in the parking lot. And I was in the midst of like selling a shirt. Yeah. And while they shooting, I was still trying to sell the shirt. Cause I'm like, yo, this is, I need this $40, $50. I'm like, yo, 2 for 50, 2 for 50. Yeah, like,
and everybody running and stuff like that.
Everybody running, people hot.
Yeah, like.
I mean, I was just trying to take advantage of the moment, but that's how hungry I was. Like, it was just to the point where like, man, this is all I got. Yeah. And, you know, like, I was really ready to lose my life, you know what I'm saying? Like trying to chase my dream, trying to feed myself, like all of these different type of things. Mm-hmm. And I guess kind of, you know what I'm saying, going back to the question that you had earlier, like that's also something, you know what I'm saying, that's in me too. Yeah. You know, when I talk about like, you know what I'm saying, like from being the bottom and then working your way up. Yeah. There's things that have happened to me in my life and things that I've been through that I promised myself that I would never go back to. So me waking up every single day and not trying to go after it and not trying to get it with that same type of fight is just, it's impossible, because that shit is still fresh in my mind. Yeah. Like I feel like, you know, any day something could happen and things could change for you. Like I could just as easily lose all of this and be right back in that situation. That's you know what I mean?
Oh, it's definitely
so as much as I can control and as much as I can prevent that, I'm going to do it because I know what that looks like.
So is it like a fear or a motivation? For you.
I'm motivated by the fear. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that, it's a scary place to be. You know what I mean? Like, and I had more to lose then, you know what I'm saying, than I do now. That's true. So now it's not even really an option for me. You know what I mean? Like I got a wife, I have a son. You know, I got tons of people that look up to me and people that follow me. Mm-hmm. Like, that's just not an option. So, you know, God forbid if something would happen to me, that's definitely not the way that I'm trying to go out. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, there are tons of other ways for me to, you know what I'm saying, to pass on that I feel like are more dignified. Yeah. Like, I don't need to put myself in those type of situations, you know what I'm saying, like, anymore.
That's right. Okay. All right. Damn, that's deep. So, to continue, let's take another direction. Go-Go is the heart of the city. It's the sound of the city. It beats in all of us. Even if you know it, even if you don't know it, you've at least heard it one time before. So would you say, first I want to ask, what were your top 3 artists, past, present?
Go-Go artists or just artists in general?
Artists in general.
Oh, shit, I can't even answer that question.
You can't even answer that?
I can't even answer that question. I mean, I can't give you top 3. I can give you top 1.
Okay, what's your top 1?
Pac.
Okay.
Pac is
over Biggie?
What?
I gotta ask. I have to ask.
This is DC.
Like, it's real. I mean, it's real.
I think if you ask 100 people from DC that are my age, Pac or Biggie, I would say probably 75%. And there's no disrespect to Biggie, but just Pac was just a larger influence for us.
That's right.
I know, you know what I'm saying, he's a huge influence for me with both Geminis. I think that his life kind of speaks to my life and things, you know, where it's kind of two-sided, you know what I'm saying, Gemini, twins, whatever. So you got one side, Pac, revolutionary, you know what I'm saying, the other side is hit 'em up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Same time.
And I feel like, you know, my life has always kind of been, you know what I'm saying, like two-sided like that, where, you know, one foot in the streets and one foot out, where, you know, knew the positive things that I needed to do, but then also, you know, definitely engaged in, you know, in
the reality,
other activities and things like that, just because it's where I'm from.
That's real. Okay. So, you know, with the impact of music throughout your whole life and stuff like that, when the Rock Creek Social Club partnered with Broccoli City Festival to create what we know now as the Broccoli City Festival, how did that feel to get that call, to be in those meetings, and then to have that big release and see all those, you know, those 1,000 people? Like, how did that feel being on that stage in that moment?
To get the call, I don't think there was the call wasn't surprising. I mean, we were the hottest thing in the streets.
Yeah.
And I felt like, you know what I'm saying, like the conversation that I had with Marcus and Brandon and Daryl and Jamon, who actually originated Broccoli City, everything that they wanted to do was aligning to what we were doing.
Yeah. And,
you know, an opportunity to produce, to host, to be a part of something, it was a no-brainer. And then to actually see it, you know, come to fruition and to be on the stage, it was amazing. The first year, I actually cried on the stage, like on the mic, just because it was the first time that I had ever been a part of something that was so large scale. And then being on the stage and looking out and seeing, I want to say we probably had like 4,000, 5,000 people the first year.
Yeah.
So to be on the stage and to actually see that, and, you know, to have a cadence with the crowd, that interaction is just like, it's nothing like it. It's like, it's powerful. I see why so many artists are like so addicted to performing and being on stage, and the energy running through you. You want to jump off and you crowd surfing and you doing all that, just because, I mean, it's an amazing feeling.
That's real. Okay, that's real. So,
what were you gonna say about Go-Go though?
I was gonna say, first I was gonna talk about, you know, Go-Go, like I said, is the sound of the city, Rare Essence, CCB, you know, Backyard, all those type of groups. I wanted to know, when growing up and hearing these bands, how has that shifted? Because now people are trying to take away Go-Go from the city. First, how do you feel about that? But then also talking about going to Go-Go's and that experience, because a lot of people don't really know about that. Yeah,
so I've been going to Go-Go's, I mean, since I was a kid. Grew up with Backyard, pretty much grew up with UCB. And I mean, I went to the Go-Go this past Sunday. Like, you know, it's still very much a part of the DNA of my life. It's been extremely important. You know, with my growth. I mean, it's just certain things that you just learned at a Go-Go when you were younger, that just things that just stick with you, you know, all throughout your life. Yeah. You know, the importance of excuse me. Like that's a huge thing. Real. Real. Being aware of your surroundings and things like that. But just the music, it's just, man, it's when people categorize it like or say like, yo, it's the heartbeat of the city. Yeah. Like, that's like a real thing. You know what I mean? Like, you can be anywhere in the entire world and you can hear a Go-Go song, and if you from this area, it'll slow everything else down, and it'll be the only thing that you focus on. And I think that, you know what I'm saying, like now, just with the internet being what it is, and people being able to get music at such a heavy clip, like the way it is now, I think that it has drowned out, you know, our music. So for me, it's very important for me to do my part to always try to highlight that. You know, my last two birthday parties, well, well, Broccoli City always pushed, you know what I'm saying, for local artists or, you know what I'm saying, for bands to get on stage. My last 2 birthday parties, I've had bands, you know what I'm saying, like perform. My last 3 birthday parties had bands perform at the party just to keep it, you know what I'm saying, prominent and fresh in people's mind to say like, yo, this is like, we can always go here, but we can't ever forget, you know what I'm saying, like where we come
Where
from.
we from?
So
being, trying to, not trying, but being a leader in the city and trying to keep, DC culture alive and stuff like that and seeing these cultural shifts, be honest, how do you feel about, gentrification is a real thing. And gentrification is something that is taken away from the culture of the city. How do you feel about that personally?
I think there are 2 sides to the coin. I think that there are things about gentrification that are good and some things are bad. I think the good part about it is, like it cleans up the city. As a kid, there were a lot of places that I couldn't go to just because they were just so bad. You know what I mean? Like the area of the city that I grew up in, I probably didn't leave, you know what I'm saying, like that sector, you know what I'm saying, between like northeast, northwest, or whatever for a long time just because the violence was so bad. I mean, ultimately, like I ended up moving out of the city and going to Maryland looking for, you know what I'm saying, like a better opportunity. So with gentrification, I think that, it's helping to clean up a lot of the neighborhoods and it's offering a lot of opportunities for things that we wouldn't necessarily have. The bad part about it is that we have people coming into the city and not necessarily asking us what we want or what we need. They're trying to tell us what we want and what we need.
And they can't understand because they haven't been here.
And you can't understand. Another thing too, you know what I mean? Like I think that, even with a lot of my like, white counterparts and things like that, even like people that I'm cool with, I have to constantly remind them that, not all black people are the same. You know what I mean? Like just because you go get somebody black from Chicago, you know what I mean? He doesn't know anything about the city. Like he can't tell me anything about the neighborhoods that I grew up in or the people that I grew up with. Like you got to tap into the community and talk to those people and figure out, what the needs and what the wants are. Not trying to guess or figure it out, on your own and then just giving it to us because at that point, you know what I'm saying, it's useless.
Yeah, that's real. That's real. So to continue down that line, what do you think or what defines being a leader for your community or like for people and stuff like that?
What defines being a leader? I think that's a good question. What defines being a leader? I think that for me, I think it's the respect that you have, you know what I'm saying, like outside of yourself. It's like being a leader is I understand the responsibility that I have to my community and to everything within the community. The businesses, the people, the everything. And then respecting those things. If that even makes sense. I mean, I think what I'm trying to get to is just it's having respect for my city, understanding the ins and outs of my city, understanding like the people, the communities, different things like that, the differences, the similarities, all those type of things, and having respect for those things, right? And then also, you know what I'm saying, like taking on the responsibility to not only respect it, but also like show other people how to respect it.
That's real. Okay.
I think that second part was what I was trying to get to.
But that's real though, because you gotta. How can you be an effective leader if you don't understand the people that are around you and stuff like that? So with being, a leader and an OG and kind of next generation coming in, what is your effective way in kind of we already know you have spaces like these that are educating, creating those connections and stuff like that, but like what else is, or what are other effective ways that other leaders out there can maybe, impact the youth?
So I think that what I do is I create the platforms.
Yeah.
We talked about that earlier when I said, we created Rock Creek to be a platform for like-minded people to be able to be in one space together, right? So whether you were a dude that worked on Capitol Hill, whether you were a dude that was originally from DC, and you know you got your Jordans or whatever posits next to you know the dude that's still from the area but hipster out, dirty beat up Vans, bike lock in the back, putting everybody in a room and then saying like, listen, we're gonna play this one song, and then everybody says, oh my God, like, you know, I love that song. You're looking at the person next to you who you probably wouldn't necessarily have a conversation with, and then you're like, oh yeah, like I like that song too, right? So it's building that platform. Then as far as like the businesses and things like that, it's once you have the people in the space, now at that point you can offer, you know, say opportunities for other things. Let me show you, you know what I'm saying, like how to put on an event. Let me, like, you standing by the bar, you know, maybe you're interested in, you know what I'm saying, like in figuring out, you know what I'm saying, how to get sponsorships or whatever. Yeah. For me, it's always about just creating a platform to be in a space for whatever your question is or whatever your interests are. If I'm a person that can help you do that, you need to be able to get to me, right? Yeah. And get to me like in the flesh. And then maybe I'm not even the person. Maybe I need to have, when we talked about the dot connector, maybe I need to have that other person, you know, in the room. So when you ask me a question, I can be like, you know what, I can take you right over to him. Yeah. Right? But if we don't have these spaces, we're not able to do that.
Yeah, that's real. That's real. So really inviting people and having them make the decision if they want to.
It's putting you in it's like people always talk about, or like you look Jay-Z or anyone people that talk about like being in the room, right? Yeah. Right? Oh yeah, you know, I need to be in a room, I need to get in these rooms, or doors being closed. People use all of these different analogies or whatever, right? Yeah. So what if I create the room and I open up all the doors?
You have no excuse.
Right. Now at that point, now you're in the room, right? Because I'm inviting everybody. And now that you're in the room, now where are we taking this? Where are we gonna go? Yeah. From here, what is it that you're trying to do? You know, maybe you don't want to do anything. Maybe you just, you know what I'm saying, like being around, you know what I'm saying, like good energy is just, you know what I'm saying, what you're seeking. Yep. You know, whatever it is, like let's figure that out and let's help, you know what I'm saying, help you get to that next level. And, you know, that's what my job is. I made my peace with God a long time ago. It's not meant for me to be the superstar. Like my job was to be able to break the wall down and open up those doors so that other people could come behind me, you know?
So do you think a lot of people are trying to be the superstar? Because there's a lot of, you know, because of COVID and that transition from the pandemic, a lot of people. Yeah. But do you think a lot of people have, you know, that, okay, I don't want to be the superstar mindset in order to be successful?
In my opinion, no. When do the supporting cast get highlighted? Yeah. They don't. Yeah, you never heard anybody say, I want to be the number 2 or I want to be the number 3 or want to be the number 4. But that number 2 position, like, could probably take you into a number 1 position. You know what I mean? Like if you just play your position and you just do it well and just be the best at that, you're a boss. That's right. But I think that's what, you know what I'm saying, some people are like, they're missing. It's like, I always give the example about football. I go into a lot of schools still and volunteer and talk to a lot of kids. I'm always like, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up type of thing, right? A lot of people, I don't want to be a football player, I want to be a basketball player. Yep. And I'm always like, well, what if that doesn't work? What if it doesn't work, right? Because you know that coaches get paid just as much as players.
That's true.
You know, trainers get paid a lot of money and their careers last a lot longer.
Yeah, they take off.
You know what I mean? Like it's all of these different type of things that people just probably just don't know. They don't even understand the options that they have. Yeah. And that's, you know what I'm saying, like that's the issue. And I think that if we pushed and promoted more of those type of things, then we would have people that would want to champion those type of things. Because there's nothing wrong. You need all of those things to be able to run a team. Yeah. You know what I mean? You need coaches, you need trainers, you need sports agents, you need marketing, you need
financial teams, lawyers.
Yeah, all of that. You know what I mean? Like there's so many different type of things. So you don't necessarily have to get away from the game.
Yeah.
Or you don't necessarily have to play to be a part of it.
Yeah.
There's so many other things, but I think that we just focus on, you know what I'm saying, like I want to be a player, I just want to do this. And then there's nothing else. Like this is the only thing I see. So then for a lot of us, because we don't know those other options, once we don't get there, it's just like you just done. Right? It's like
playing a role that works for you, for real.
My cousin has a company that he started. It's called After the Ball Deflates. Where he talks about a lot of those things. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people, they put their all into this one particular thing, and then you know what I'm saying, when it doesn't happen, an injury, whatever the case may be, you know, got somebody pregnant, you can't leave, whatever your situation is or whatever, you know what I mean? It's like now what do I do? Then like depression sit in. All of these different type of things, you know what I'm saying, like start happening. And I think that the easiest way for us to be able to prevent that is like, you know, teach people what their options are. And then say, you know what, maybe this is not for you, but maybe this is. And that's cool and that's okay.
But so do you also believe as well, you know, when finding out what do you really want to do, you got to have that foundation?
I think that like, I don't think that you have to have that foundation. I think the foundation is just like what I said, is just working hard. Yeah. You know what I mean? Just to succeed. And keeping your head, you know what I'm saying, and looking at the bigger picture of things, right? It's like, you know, this is the goal. I'm not trying to tell you I'm not trying to steer you away from your goal. Like your goal is your goal, right? Yeah. But also too, you know what I mean? Like there are other things. You can't just like this is here. Like you still gotta see everything, you know what I'm saying, like on the way. Yeah. Right? You still gotta be taking notes. You know, you walking up the steps, you know, you got to pass the second floor to get to the third floor, the third floor to get to the fourth floor. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like at some point, you know what I'm saying, like you're paying attention, right? I always tell people like, you know, moving up in the world when elevators are broken, because I feel like when you get elevated so high, it's like when you fall down, you don't know where you at. Yeah. Right? But if you're going through the process and you're paying attention to what's going on, if something doesn't work, you're like, you know what, man, I could just be here. Yeah. I could do this and still be close here. And maybe that's even, and if I'm here, maybe that's still, you know what I'm saying, an opportunity. Gary Payton II.
Yeah, look, yeah. Nice.
You know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying.
Wanted to do video for the Warriors. Got the call up, and now he's an NBA champion, and he just got what like a $30-40 million contract or something like that.
Yeah, he's up.
You feel me?
Yeah.
Right? He stayed with it.
That's real.
This situation, this was his goal. It didn't necessarily work out, but he stayed around, stayed healthy, stayed around the organization, got the call. Now he's an NBA champion. He just got to pay that. That's a perfect example of what I'm talking about.
That's real. That's real. So to continue along that line, like, do you think? Because I was having a conversation with my peoples the other day, and the idea of perfection came up, and the fact that we're all working towards perfection in some sort of way. Do you think you can attain perfection in this life, in any avenue specifically? Do you think that perfection has just got to be something that it's got to feel right to you? It's got to be a feeling more than just.
I think we're all perfectly imperfect people. Okay. It's just natural. We're human. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think that there are a lot of things that we can control. I think there are a lot of things that we can't control. Yeah. And those things affect, you know, our lives. And I mean, it's also perspective. It's like, what does being perfect look like to you? What being perfect looks like to you and what it looks like for me might be two different things.
That's real.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, I don't know if you can achieve it. Not in the sense that because you don't control everything, but also too but I guess it's two sides to that too. It's like, what is your definition? You know what I'm saying, of what that's perfect real. Is and what the next person is.
That's real.
At Unkle Scooty on all social media platforms. So UNKLESCOOTY. And if you go into my bio from there, it'll list everything that I'm a part of Sandlot Southeast, Sandlot Anacostia, Sandlot Tysons, Sandlot Georgetown, Blackley Vodka, Rock Creek Social Club. Yeah, you can get all the information. You can go right to my page and get information about everything it is that I'm doing right then and there. If it's not in my bio, that means that I'm not a part of it.